those who were involved in making it come to life. Join us as we go behind the door.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Door. This is the Grey Rooms podcast. Today we are on Season 2, Episode 7, The Greyfriars Transcript. Today we are with author Gary Bowler.
Hello.
We are with actor Alistair Mackey.
Hello.
And we are with producer extraordinaire Jason Wilson.
What's up?
And I'm social media and Patreon manager Brooks Bigley. So, gentlemen, this was an epic tale of a commute gone wrong.
Yes, it was.
Gary, tell us all about this, Gary. This story was fantastic. What inspired this?
Gosh, I don't know about you guys in the States, but over in England, back in the late 80s, early 90s, might be the same for Alistair actually, if he was in Scotland. They used to show videos to schools, of railway danger. So you go into school and you'd sit in the assembly hall and all the kids would be there and they'd show you, we like one of those old sort of box televisions, and they'd show you a video on railway safety, keep away from the railways, keep away from the overhead cables. And man, they were scary. I don't know if you've ever seen them. They're absolutely terrifying. Some of the practical effects were horrible, but that kind of gave me a slight fear of the railway lines and the railways in general. And it wasn't often that I'd get an opportunity to actually travel by rail until I was a little bit old. Even at the time, young adult, sort of early 90s, late 90s. There's something, I don't know, just deep within me that like unnerved me a little bit about it. I think the origin of the Greyfriars Transcript kind of came from there. Yeah.
Interesting. Was there a rash of people being hit by trains or getting hurt on the rails of trains that you even needed to have those videos made?
I don't know, in all honesty. I think it was just like a government incentive. Maybe it was happening at the time, a lot of electric lines around and stuff. The videos, man, they were worse than the horror films that especially when you consider at the time, I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old maybe, and they were showing you full on, you could see the build up to it happening, and you knew what was going to happen, and a lot of the kids just sat there with their hands over their eyes,
Yeah.
And there is something really, I find there's something really kind of weird and creepy about railway lines and railway stations. You kind of stood there and that death's about 5 or 6 feet away potentially. And there's the whole thing about the whole thing about the third rail as well. I used to, the third rail. I wouldn't know what a third rail looked like, but apparently that's the electrified one. But if you stand on a railway line and it happens to be a third rail, that's you dead basically. So it was all kind of around that really. And then when it came to actually writing the Greyfriars script, it was a previous job where I used to do a lot of travelling around Great Britain, from as far north as Aberdeen, down as far south as London. And I got on a train up to Edinburgh, and I wrote the story basically in the first draft for it anyway, in just one sitting. Just sort of sat there and laid down freehand in a notebook. So that's where the Greyfriars Transcript kind of came from.
Have you ever fallen asleep on a train yourself while commuting?
Oh, often. I kind of set the alarm on my phone now. 5 30 friends stops, and they've been well on their way to London.
Yeah.
I took a train from California to Nebraska, where I live, and it was one of those Zephyrs, and our engine broke down, and they gave us a they took our the speedy train and they put a gosh dang it, what's it called? Just a regular engine, like a normal train that pulls coal and all that stuff. And they drug us through the mountains, and we actually passed Donner Pass and all that stuff. And I remember sitting in the observation car, and it was just actually, there's something freaky about riding in a train because that thing's constantly swaying, and it just, it's just, I won't never do it again, ever. Especially now. Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
You're welcome. No, I've never liked it either. And there's also the invasion of personal space as well. Someone sits right next to you. And, trains are a lot better than they used to be, I guess. Well, that said, we still have overcrowding. You probably have the same mistakes, particularly in you get in a train and more often than not you're standing. But yeah, I don't know. There's just something about trains and train stations that nerve me a little bit, I think.
Yeah. Well, so Alistair, as an actor, what did you do? I don't know if you could say to prepare for the role. You didn't go ride a bunch of trains or anything. But how did you kind of figure out the tone, or did he? How did you figure out like the tone for your character? Because you did a fantastic job, like bringing us along with you through this experience on the train. What did you do to prepare for that?
Well, honestly, I used to get the train all the time because I used to live in London, and I used to commute about an hour and a half in the morning and an hour and a half in the evening on the tube, which is probably the most cramped train that we have in Britain, where other people's elbows and armpits are in your eye, and you try and read a book 6 inches away from your face just to pass the time. So trains have never actually really bothered me because I got used to them. But I personally am not a wonderful flyer. So I sort of tried to channel that experience. Now, I used to fly quite a bit in my 20s when I was working abroad, and it never sat well with me. That always gave me like a little bit of anxiety, kept me a little bit on edge, even though I knew it was statistically pretty safe.
Right.
So I was sort of trying to channel that just general unease of there being sort of not necessarily something wrong, but that something could go wrong, and that something we know something has gone wrong with this method of transport before, but I'm trying to push it out of my mind, trying not to think about it. So I deliberately actually didn't take too much, sort of too many wild decisions with the way I recorded the vocals. I actually wanted to keep him quite focused and quite relatively monotone throughout the whole process, as if he was trying to distract himself from everything that was going on, and just trying to like someone who was trying to go through something that they have already got a fear from without the addition of the supernatural.
Right.
Can I just I thought it was, I mean, you're going to say it's obviously I did genuinely feel it was I said to you on Twitter at the time, Master, it was a really good tone for the story. It felt very gritty and grey and dark and very, very British, I think. Obviously, because all the accents are kind of British within the story, but it felt like some sort of BBC melodrama or something. It's like, I was kind of interested to sort of see what the American audience kind of thought about that, because, it's probably just come out of the blue, this sort of that grey British, very dark, very gritty sort of episode.
Yeah, I agree with you as well. I'm interested. It's not an accent that often gets represented, I would say, across the pond. So I too was interested to see sort of what the American reaction was from our fan base over there and from you guys as to that specific accent of sort of the middle of the UK. You don't tend to get the middle of the UK represented very much. You tend to get sort of the south, where you have the traditional BBC English accents, and then you have up north where you have sort of Scotland and across the water to Ireland as well. But in the middle, was it distinguishable as something different as an accent?
Absolutely. You probably meant the American guys, but for me, I think I said to you, it's like Sean Bean. It reminded me a little bit of Sean Bean and Sharp or something. It was cool. It was kind of, it sort of fitted the story really, really well. But yeah, what do the American guys think?
Well, I think like at my American ear, what it heard is that I wouldn't be able to say, oh, you sound like you're from this area versus from over in this area. But I honestly think that it was a very pleasing accent. Like, I enjoyed just hearing you talk, almost into the realm of like, hey, I'd love to hear Alistair narrate the back of a recipe using that voice. Like it was it worked very well with the story, and it was pleasing to hear. And also, I think maybe Americans tend to think that, British people are so much more just serious. So your tone throughout the story, I felt like, showed that you were a very measured person, that like, you meet this weird looking ticket taker, but you're not like freaking out like maybe in America would, like, oh my God, he's going to kill me, or like, having all these crazy thoughts after the ticket taker's gone. You're just very measured and you're just very sane going through it. So I felt like that's why we were able to ride with you and slowly see as new things kept happening to you, we were experiencing them with you. Yep. So anyways, your accent was great.
Yeah, I loved it. It actually, that's why when I was editing it, I thought about the environment around it, because the way that actually, Alistair, I always love what he does, because he has kind of a smokiness to his voice, and it's very soothing. Like, you listen to it and he just really grabs you, like Brooke said, and just kind of takes your hand and drags you through the story, and you just kind of like, okay, I got to follow along, because this is great. So yeah, always a wonderful job.
Thank you very much.
Definitely. So Gary, I wanted to ask now, something that kind of that I caught, and I'm sure people have, but maybe people didn't give it a second thought, but there are certain times where Alistair's character is almost addressing us as the listener, where he says, like, I was listening to your podcast. And then he also mentions, which I'm pretty sure his character mentions listening to No Way Out, right?
Yeah.
Because
I caught.
So what? I guess my question more was like, what was that framing kind of about? Like, who? I just thought it was so interesting. It was almost like breaking the fourth wall, that he's narrating the story. He's going to die in the end, but then he's also telling us about the podcast, almost like, fourth wall breaking. Or it was very meta to me, if that makes sense. How did you come up with that idea?
Yeah, to be honest, it wasn't intentional when I first wrote it. I didn't. When I wrote it obviously wasn't Grey Rooms in mind, but when it came to editing the story for the Grey Rooms, when I kind of knew that I was going to submit, I did change a few little things. I did include The Way Out as like the story on the podcast. But the idea behind that was, again, it kind of links back to a little bit to personal experience. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts when I used to travel. And there are quite a few of them. There's one called, I don't even know if it's still going, to be honest, but it's really good. One called Anything Ghosts. And this guy called Lex Wall who kind of narrates it. And he's got this sort of like breathless sort of very creepy voice. He could be or something, but I don't think he's intentionally talking about it. I think that's just his natural voice. But I used to listen to his podcasts, and people used to kind of send in self-recorded videos and self-recorded recordings, and they're often sort of addressing the podcast sort of directly. So they'd be, hey Lex, I love your show, like, this scary thing happened to me, and some of them were real doozies. That kind of partially inspired the podcast part. But then, as I say, when Grey Rooms came along, I thought I'd make it. I did intentionally make it meta and a little bit, sort of linking back to the old episodes and stuff, just because I thought it fit in quite well. Should it be accepted?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it kind of just adds to, like, I don't know, the overall narrative story of the Grey Rooms itself, that you kind of, if you're listening carefully, you can kind of tie the two stories together that way. It's just I just thought it was very cool. It's very meta. I have no idea how else to explain, but I thought that was really cool once I seized on that.
It was one of my favorite audio edits, actually, that you put in, Jason, as well, was the way the speech was presented when they were talking sort of at the beginning and the end, which was sort of bookended by that recorded message.
Right.
I really liked that. I didn't actually recognize it was my voice to start with, because you'd put it through, and I was like, that's me. I remember recording those lines. So yeah, that definitely is me. But that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was awesome. It had the distance to it. That's kind of how I envisaged it when I was writing it. This person's somehow getting this recording to this podcast, but they're expending a lot of, I guess, spiritual energy to do it, and that sort of grainy distance to it was really good.
Cool. Yeah. When I first started reading it, you actually had like a little thing in there, like recording begins. And I remember sitting there saying, okay, recording begins. What exactly does he mean necessarily by that? I mean, Alistair didn't say it. Nobody ever says anything about it. And I was like, you know what? This person is sending a message from another time, or, like you got kind of caught in a loop of something. So this is going to be on a tape deck. So I'm glad y'all like that, because I honestly, it was part of my favorite part of the story as well, was the intro and the outro. I really thought that the way Alistair delivered it at the end with the effects of the tape deck really, really was a gut punch. It really brought the, how just dire of a situation it was and how desperate the character was. So great acting and great story writing really brought all that out. So yeah.
I agree with it. It could have been so sized at the end, and it wasn't, and that's what I liked about it. It was even more unnerving, I think, because of that.
Oh, it was horrible to listen to. It was just what's wonderful about doing the Grey Rooms as a season is that I get scripts really far in advance, and so I record them, I send them off to you, and then you're working on them for what must be hours and days and to get them sounding wonderfully. But I no offense to the great writing of Gary Buller, I tend to put them out of my mind and move on to another script. So when it comes back to listening to things that I've recorded like a couple of months previous, I don't remember necessarily the moments I've recorded it. So I got to the end and I was like, oh, that's horrible. That is vile. That is horrible and trapped. So I loved the ending of it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorites of the season. Honestly, I really enjoyed this. Just how dark just everything about it was. It was really just a very somber and horrific ride the whole time. And you're just sitting there on the edge of your seat thinking like, all right, what the heck's going to happen? And then the whole storyline behind the accident of the Greyfriars. And then Graham doing the part of the shopkeeper out there who making your sandwich, him telling the folklore about what happened kind of, sets up the scene in your head. And then, Alistair, you delivered it, you're on the train, and then everything just starts to happen. It's actually it's not gore in your face Texas Chainsaw, but it's a pretty terrifying and horrific experience to sit through and listen, because you know what's happening. And it was really well done. This was really fun to do.
Right. One scene that really stood out for me too, because I grew up taking an actual train as well. I grew up in San Francisco, and not only do they have buses, but they have light rail. And the light rail runs on the streets, but then also goes down below, so you could consider that underground, I guess. So I have experience with all of that, and I know the cramped sardine feeling when you're in peak commute hours and there's nowhere to sit and you're all jammed with elbows in your faces, and I get all of that. But over the years of me taking the train as a child and then going into teenagehood and whatnot, many a times I'd have my ear pods on, fall asleep sitting in the chair, and then you're never in a deep sleep. You're in kind of a semi-conscious state because you are aware that people are moving around you, but you're not physically paying attention to it. You're technically asleep. And then somehow you always know when to wake up again before your stop. I don't think I ever slept through a stop. But the scene that you wrote where you say, he's closing his eyes and he could feel the train was heavy with people, even though he wasn't really aware that there were any people in the train. That really hit me as a spooky feeling, because many times I would have closed my eyes. Maybe there was 5 people to my left and 3 people to my right, and I close my eyes and I fall asleep, and then I wake up again on the train, and now there's 10 people to my right, but they're all different. And now there's 20 people to my left. And it's just a very kind of brief moment of like, whoa, what's going on? You're waking up in a new place. And that just really encapsulates the fear that I have of riding a train. You did a really good job with that.
Same experience, and channeled it from that a little bit, I think. Because, as I said before, I do kind of doze on the train. I do set an alarm, as I said before, but just in case. But I tend to have that natural thing to kind of wake up before it anyway. But you
Right.
kind of sit, you sort of sat there and you sort of get your ear pods in and you're sort of nodding, and you can kind of feel the doors opening and closing, and occasionally you'll catch the sound of someone talking, and it's a woman, but the woman's any woman carriage before you, fell asleep. You become vaguely aware of what's happening around you, and that's kind of what I was sort of aiming for when I wrote that little bit.
I will say one of the most the British parts of the entire story that I found was when during that section where he is asleep and he feels someone sit next to him and he's just like, oh, excellent, another 3 hours with somebody with really poor personal hygiene, but then just deals with it and goes to sleep. That spoke to me. So for someone who used to travel a lot on public transport, just like, oh, you stink, but I can't say anything. I'm not going to move because I'm British. So that's awful, but I'm going back to my podcast.
That's funny. So true. So true. So yeah. People shower, clean your Yeah. Again, it's all just testament of the story writing and the acting and everything. It was really great. It was a really fun story to work on. I loved reading the script. It was actually one that didn't take me very long because unlike some stories where I have to sit there and really plan out the scene, this one was, it's in a train, so it's kind of, you're in a train, but everything was just laid out so well, and the dominoes just fell just so perfectly, and then Alistair delivered on it, and it was it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing it. It didn't take me long. Normally, a story takes me anywhere from 3 days to close to a week. This one, I think I got done in about 2 days because it was just easy to do because it was so powerful. I was able to picture every scene before it happened.
I really like the with the in the bakery and the sound of the bacon, and then you got rainfall, and then you got getting on the train, and that coupled with Alistair's voice acting, I just if I could describe it, I'd call it be grey, but not kind of like a boring grey. It's sort of very, very serious and very very, very dismal. Yeah, exactly. That's what I took from it. But it was a fantastically recorded episode. Very, very, very proud of it.
Hey, Gary, what did you think about Cassie's artwork? Did that kind of capture the visuals that you had writing the story?
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. Type video as well. That was really cool. I showed the picture to my daughter, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be like my story. It's going to be on a podcast. And she's like, is that your name graffitied on the back of that chair? She was kind of really way it's been done, that weird spectre, just in the aisle. Really creepy. No, it's absolutely fantastic. I'm really pleased with that. It's definitely one I've saved into my.
That's awesome. Before we start heading to the end of the tunnel here, I wanted to also ask you, Gary, do you have any fun and exciting things that you're currently working on that you can share with us? Can you plug anything here?
Oh, absolutely. I'm currently quite invested in a short story collection for Unnerving, which is going to be part of the Rewind on Die series. Just work. It's going to be. It's called Dead and Breakfast. It's already been by Eddie Generous. But it's going to be a collection of 4 stories, 4 short stories, and it's going to be kind of a wraparound story around that. So a bit like Tales from the Crypt. Something's going to happen to these people. They're going to meet this person, and she's going to tell some stories, and those stories are going to be the short stories, and then this kind of something horrible happens at the very end. But I'm kind of just finishing bits and bobs of that off at the moment, and that should be out on the 20th of June. And I've got a couple of other short stories, obviously, in the revolving doors at the moment.
Right.
Imminent at the moment, besides that.
I'll be sure to get links and other relevant information from you this week so that we can include everything in the show notes. That way fans can find you, your own personal website, all that kind of fun stuff. We want to make sure to get more fans behind you. So.
Oh, no, I really appreciate that. I mean, and thanks to all you guys for, it's the second podcast. I've been lucky enough to be involved with you. As usual, it's very, very professionally done. You yourself have the wraparound story as well, and I find that absolutely fascinating as well. And it's something I'm very, very proud of sharing to people. Say this is something I've been part of, and just thanks to everyone, Alistair, Jason, everyone involved. I really appreciate it.
No, it was our pleasure, man. It was a really great story to edit. So thank you.
Yeah, we want you for season 3. Wink, wink.
I might send something your way.
Yeah, submission deadline is April 18th. So
cool. You got time.
I give them time. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Gary, for writing something which finished in my hometown.
Oh, you're quite welcome. I did that intentionally. Oh, by the way, Greyfriars Cemetery is a damn spooky place. I've been there a couple of times, so that's actually real. But for the American guys who might not know, the Greyfriars Cemetery or Kirkyard is like a famous haunted kirkyard. It's like well known for like quite a spooky place. Although the train station is not really anywhere near it, that's a real part.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Can you take pictures of it and post it, or?
Sorry, say again.
Can you take pictures of that cemetery and post it? Like, are you close to it that you could do that?
I'm not. Alistair might be. I've actually got.
Okay.
I have actually got pictures of it though with me in it.
So, okay.
Sorry, send them along with me.
Which I was just getting ready to say to everybody out there too. Our patrons do get videos that we put out. We actually have Hale Scherf, who related to JM, does videos for us, and Hale's work is phenomenal. And Alistair actually sent us a bunch of videos of him at the Greyfriars, which was really cool. And we're working on those now. Hale's going to put those together, and we're going to have a really neat video for our patrons to view. And then those things may become public, but again, it won't be till later. But you can go ahead and watch those as they're released pretty much now by going to our Patreon. So we'll make sure Alistair gets a chance to see those too. And, I'll make sure Gary can see them as well. But yeah, it's really cool videos, really neat stuff.
Awesome. Sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
Greyfriars Kirkyard's only about a 10-minute walk from my office, my day job. So I was able to just sneak up there after work and took a few pictures and a few videos. So
such an eerie set of videos and pictures they were, dude. It's like you look at that place, you're like, oh my god! You can see the history. It almost looks like it almost looks like one of those ones where you turn on the TV and people like those like caught on camera moments where you expect to be walking through the Greyfriars and catch a billion ghosts just sitting around having a tea party because it looks that. But
I'm not gonna lie.
What a scary place.
Most of Edinburgh looks like that. It's all very creepy and old style architecture. Very very similar to Greyfriars Kirkyard.
I gotta get out there. I have to go there. I'll tell you what.
It's beautiful, man. Edinburgh's a lovely place. It's a beautiful place to visit.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'll hide in your luggage, Jason. Bring me with you.
Just don't come in August.
Don't come in. Okay, we'll avoid August.
Right.
Alistair, is there any fun projects that you're working on other than us fine folks at the Grey Rooms podcast?
Other than the Grey Rooms, I've got a few bits and bobs coming up with the Grey Rooms. Obviously, Todd pops up now and again in all the episodes, which I'm having so much fun fleshing him out this season. Well, obviously,
you're amazing at it. Oh my gosh!
I'm still trying to figure out where the voice comes from because I know it's from 90s kids TV and I can't remember where it's from. I thought it was the BFG, but it's not quite the BFG. But it's nearly there. I'll remember as soon as I figure it out. I'll find out who I've ripped it off from because it's not mine. Alongside Grey Room stuff, I'm currently working as a guest character for S.H. Cooper in her podcast Through Stained Glass. Which is a fairy.
That's right, the fairy tale one.
Yes,
story.
It's a retelling podcast based on Beauty, and I'm playing a mayor in the town for her. And I'm also just starting work on my first Steam game called Wicked Willow, which is a storybook game, a sort of choose your own adventure game, in which I play a magic cat.
Ooh,
awesome! Awesome.
So I'll be starting recording that next week.
That's so cool. You're breaking into video games now. Nice.
Yep. It's gonna be good fun actually. It's gonna be fun. The script's really nice. It's also an LGBTQ plus positive game, which is sort of a cause I believe very highly in. So it's nice to get behind art which supports.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Was now back to S.H. Cooper's podcast. Is that out yet, or that's still coming out soon?
Still coming together.
Okay, got it.
Episode 1 script is finished. We're in the process of recording and editing at the moment. Script for episode 2 is currently TBC.
Okay.
But it's very much a work in progress at the moment. I don't know what the official release schedule is yet, but as soon as I know, I will be tweeting it. Follow me on Twitter for more.
Absolutely.
Okay. Awesome.
for voiceover chat, Scottish politics, and terrible memes.
Which are usually quite awesome. We'll definitely add a bunch of links for you and stuff you're doing, or future stuff too. We'll get all that in the show notes as well.
Yeah. So. Actually, Gary, I didn't remember if I heard you mention it. Are you still doing your YouTube?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to plug that.
Yeah, I watch it periodically. It's pretty good stuff, man. I enjoy it, so don't forget that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's the Marchese and Buller show. It's if you check out my Twitter at Gary Buller or at WC Marchese, MARCHESE, I think it is. You'll see a link for the show on there. We do it. We do it every fortnight now, but we usually do 2 shows a fortnight, and we release it every Friday. It's no longer a live show like this one's kind of a pre-recorded thing. We just decided to tidy it up a little bit. But we discuss everything from writing to the new shows on Netflix to Will does a few silly challenges, like eating really hot potato chips, and we do some really random stuff. But it's a good thing. We get on so well with friends anyway. I'd probably end up talking to him weekly anyway, so we thought we may as well record it and get it out there. So yeah, that's still going.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's kind of a variety opinion show. They do reviews and everything else like that. So if you have some time to go and you want to check something out, I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait to.
Well, gentlemen,
wait to see a Gary Buller story by April 18th, the deadline for our office to submit. Yes. And I can't wait to see what Alistair is going to bring for season 3. So I'm just like, man, great.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. The sky is the limit. Season 3 is going to blow season 2 away, and season 2 is blowing season 1 away. So we're just this train is rolling along.
Season 4 is in training.
Why am I Johnny Cash all of a sudden? It's just in my head.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for the Behind the Door.
Yes, you guys are on the other side of the world from us. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No problem.
Thanks for having it. Thanks for being so accommodating of the time difference, because as we have to do this in the evening for you, it would be sort of like 3 a.m. for us.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, come season 3, you're going to have to work on our schedule. Wink, wink.
Oh, did
no.
Yes,
that's fine. If you
look forward to those 4 a.m. wake ups.
Boy, could you imagine some of the commentary we get at 4 a.m. when everybody's like stir crazy and tired from a day at work? They probably just imagine what would come out of the mouth then, like this, something beans and.
I know. Yeah, be very therapeutic.
Behind the door after dark. Equivalently.
Oh, there's an idea.
Oh dear.
Well, before Brooks closes out, I personally, again, I can't thank you enough, Gary, for such a wonderful story. I really loved working on Way Out last season, and this story definitely. I thought that your story last season was phenomenal, and this one you just really amped it up and took it to that next level. And the fact that you connected the two together was really cool. I really enjoyed it. It was just a very kind of classic, real kind of horror in this story that I just caught myself getting latched onto constantly as I was producing it. And I really thoroughly had a lot of fun producing it. So thanks for letting me work on your story. And Alistair, man, come on. I mean, everything Alistair ever sends me, I'm always super excited to get it. And he does such a wonderful job. He's truly a great talent. Everybody that he said that he's working with now, yeah, you're in luck. You're blessed to have such a great talent as we are here at the Grey Rooms. And I always appreciate working on what you deliver, Alistair. So thank you ever so much. And I wish both of you guys the best of luck. And I hope to work with you for many years to come. And then I'll turn it back over to Brooks, who obviously he knows I love him. So
Thanks, Jason.
Yes, thank you, Jason.
Yes, I just repeat everything Jason said. Gary, your stories are awesome. Like you're so good at details without, or maybe I'm saying it backwards. You're so good at descriptions without getting bogged down in details. You're great at painting the blueprint that then Jason came along and was able to make the audio for. So I was just floored by your story from season 1, The No Way Out. I thought, and especially given the theme that it had, which some people, it's a difficult theme. You did it with tact and it was great. And here we are again with yet another awesome story that is rooted in human evil, not in some really massive monster to run away from or anything like that. So I really appreciated the story. And Alistair, Alistair, to use an American expression, you are the bomb. And I don't mean that you're going to blow up either. That's a positive thing. Yeah, Alistair, you're awesome. You're amazing. Absolutely amazing as an actor. We're lucky that we have you to work with. It's just great. It's phenomenal.
I'm really, really grateful for the continued work and to have stories like Gary is to work on is wonderful. So I'm always appreciative for the opportunities that Grey Rooms has thrown my way as well, because I was very much a fledgling when Graham plucked me from obscurity. So I'm growing with you.
Graham loves to sing your praises all the time. Always.
Yeah, he'll take credit for me, I think, is the way he puts it.
Yeah.
Actually, you got to remember too, this story wouldn't have been what it is without, one, the support of Brooks, and then Cassie with her phenomenal artwork. Her
100%.
Really flesh out the story and just grab onto the soul and just put it in everybody's eyes. Everything that she does is just phenomenal. And then the soul of a lot of these stories, Mr. J.M. Scherf. We cannot forget his absolute musical powerhouse that he is. And he just always makes these stories so phenomenal. So we got to thank those guys too. And of course, all of our wonderful patrons. Love you guys.
Everybody. Yes, very much so.
No, thanks, gentlemen.
Well, that does it for another episode of Behind the Door. Once again, today we were with author Gary Bowler.
Goodbye.
We're with the phenomenal actor Alistair Mackey.
Don't say
Farewell.
goodbye. Don't say goodbye.
It's not a goodbye. It's just a temporary reprieve. And we have our fantastic producer Jason Wilson.
Can I share the door with you guys? It's cold in the water.
No, Jack. And me, Brooks Bigley.
We love you.
Thank you. And without further ado, that's the end. Everybody have a great night, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Join us each week after every episode for another edition of Behind